Welcome to this episode of Open Scripture, where we seek to sharpen the way the church reads her foundational texts. My name is Tracy McKenzie. With me is Nick Nail. And today we are covering Genesis 10, the so-called Table of Nations. Last week, we finished the Noah story. We closed out really the genealogy all the way back to Genesis 5. We also closed out the flood story, again, beginning with Noah coming out of Genesis 5 and that whole chiasm. Mm-hmm. And we basically saw how the author integrated material which will become important from the patriarchal narratives. This is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, where we learn about God's gift of the Canaan land, the land of Canaan, to the descendants of Abraham. And the author, of course, basically, in a sense, it was like a prequel, I suppose, although he didn't really give too much information, just what was needed, that was, basically Canaan was cursed and would be a servant to Shem, who we will see will continue to be an important figure. As a matter of fact, our episode today, we're really just doing a couple quick things in the Table of Nations. We're going to look at the dispersion, which we talked about was connected to a word in the ark, coming out of the ark in chapter 8:19, I think. We're going to look at that phenomenon here in Genesis 10, and then we're going to talk about the continued emphasis of Shem.
Okay. Well, before we get there, we have another question from a Patreon supporter. This is from Joel.
Hey, by the way, let me just interrupt and say, again, if you would subscribe or like or share this podcast, remember what we're doing here. We're trying to basically create a resource that is similar to like a live commentary. A commentary is a scholarly book that comments on a biblical text, and we're kind of doing that in a live conversational format. We're doing Genesis 1 through 11. We've taken these 25. I think this is the 26th episode.
26.
Basically, that we've taken to explain Genesis 1 through what will be 10. And then we're going to sort of quickly summarize Genesis 12 through 50. We're not going to go through the entire book, but then we'll go on to another biblical book, maybe Jonah, maybe Ezekiel, maybe we'll do a short series over interpretation, or we'll do a short series over different systems of theology. And again, we're just trying to create resources for the church and for you all. So please like and subscribe and share.
Yeah. Now, I actually want to add something to that because, a lot of the people, we're still a pretty small little project that we have. And so a lot of our listeners are people in our inner circles, friends, colleagues, students, family. And, they're sharing it with other people. But there are some people that are getting wind of this. And it's, from one person sharing it to another person to another person. And there are people listening that we don't even know who you are. And we're glad that you're listening. But feel free to send us a message and let us know how you heard about Open Scripture and who shared it with you and how
you're using it.
Yeah, how it's benefiting you.
Yeah.
If you've actually learned anything.
Yeah, right.
We would love to know who this is reaching.
Right.
Because we keep hearing some cool stories.
Right.
And thankful for that. Thankful for those of our inner circles that are sharing it.
Right. And supporting us, through our Patreon. Again, go out, check out our Patreon, check out our supporters. I suppose we could mention one other thing here related to that. One of the benefits of being a Patreon supporter is you get invited to a scripture workshop, which our kind of sister institute, if you will. This is a nonprofit that Beth and I and Nick is involved in as well that we're really doing. We're trying to go into churches to offer kind of some training on how to understand the Bible. And one of the benefits of being a Patreon supporter is you get invited to those if they're in your area, free of charge. You can come and participate in those. And we are going to have a couple of those in Raleigh, in the Raleigh area, which of course is where we are. So we'll have a couple of those this, maybe even summer or fall, and we will let you know, and you'll be invited to those.
Awesome. Well, onward to the Patreon question for today. How do we know that the author, and this is from Joel, a Patreon supporter named Joel. How do we know that the author is referring to other texts, like repetition? But how do we know wordplay? How do we know these things other than us just assuming and inferring and trying to connect our own dots? Like, how do we actually know that this is what the author is doing?
Yeah, good question. Good question. And a question which, of course, I suppose reveals a bit, just a hair of subjectivity to the whole enterprise of interpretation. On the one hand, we would say, interpretation is not like, blood work, where you stick maybe some blood or a substance under a microscope, you look down onto that microscope, and you can kind of see these cells or whatever you might see underneath the microscope. We would call those the hard sciences, right? And again, you can think of a number of different examples of the hard sciences. Whereas these types of things, the liberal arts, we could say, that is kind of literature, English, language, these things are called, often called the soft sciences.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not as if there's not a science to this. It's just not as crisp and objective, we could say, as the hard sciences.
Which is what we like in our modern era.
In our modern era, we love like this kind of
clear
objectivity.
1 + 1 = 2.
Right. And I think that's part of maybe the problem. I think we took Nate's question last week about kind of the historicity of these things, and how do we mirror or match or think about the historicity as it relates also to literature, and we talked about that. We like this objective historiography, right? So again, here though, we're dealing with words, and words are, again, these kind of fuzzy little things that they are adequate. Words and language was a brilliant invention. Again, a wonderful way that God kind of brought about to share knowledge through the generations and through time, right? Language, the alphabet, we could say. The alphabet is this brilliant invention. There was a time when an alphabet, in the sense of our, alphabet, English alphabet, or in this case, the 22, 23 letter alphabet of Hebrew, didn't exist.
Yeah.
But again, it came about, it was invented, and it was a way to share, again, these ideas or these mental pictures of what you were talking about via letters. And we don't need to go into all that today, but it is a little bit more ambiguous than we would like. But it is adequate to convey meaning.
Yeah.
So to get to the real heart of Joel's question then, what I would say is we're doing all of this through words. Like, I remember one of the earliest things we said about this came from Genesis 2:4. We were talking about how the author was connecting what would come in the garden account, Genesis 2:5 and following. He was connecting that with Genesis 1.
Right.
And I think Joel's question is, okay, how do you know the author's connecting that? And all I can say is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 Hebrew words in Genesis 2:4. 9 are words tied, 8 are words tied precisely to Genesis 1. Words like heaven and earth, create, day, made, God, and then he even flips it earth and heavens. So then there are 3 words which are moving forward, and that is, these are the generations. That's 2 words in Hebrew, and then Lord. So we're saying, because he used 8 of those words, which were explicit words from Genesis 1, we can see in the very, very important words from Genesis 1 in the pattern, in the creation, in the making. So we're seeing a tie there.
Yeah, very intentional.
And again, I think what we see here is it basically is related to intelligent design. Another example here, I guess we could use from Genesis 1, is structure of days, right? You have the 7 days in the Genesis 1, this week of preparation, creation and preparation. Well, again, that structure, there was evening and morning, a certain day, and God said, let there be. That kind of structure is not by coincidence.
Yeah.
It's intelligent design. And again, the more you read this, the more you see the way the author is designing these things. Another example is the chiasm, this literary design in the flood story. I mean, how many, I don't have the count off the top of my head, but how many, correspondences are there in that? 20, 25 correspondences maybe from A, B, C, D, E, so on and so forth, then backwards, right? Maybe 25 correspondences.
Yeah.
Again, well, that shows intelligent design, that the author is up to something, and you can begin to see, him refer to things or associate things. We could go on with the word plays and some things like this. So I don't know. Do you think that gets at it?
I think that gets at it. I mean, it also shows that just in every other area of study, we have experts, and so you are, and you wouldn't call yourself an expert.
I would not call myself an expert,
but you are
one chapter. I'm an expert in one chapter. Remember,
you're more of an expert
Ezekiel
than
16.
I am. If that means
that's
anything.
true. No,
so you are an expert in this field of study who is able to point out these things where someone. I'm not quite there, but even someone who isn't in ministry or in seminary or something, they're going to read the English Bible. They're not even going to have any clue on how to pick up on these things. So you being the expert, being able to point out these things, that's something that I don't know anything about whatever construction, but I'm going to trust someone in this expertise in that. So it's just kind of shows that this is your area of study. Yeah. You can connect the dots where some people, it's maybe not as clear, but that's what you're helping point out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. And I'm encouraged, by that. I was thinking about an analogy of this. You mentioned construction. I was thinking auto mechanics. It's like we took, my son's car into the shop this last week. He's gone and we're using it. So we took it into the shop. And, of course, boom, in half a day, they had the problem all fixed. There were about 3 problems. They had it fixed, no problem. Yeah. I'm sure. And I started thinking, that guy's probably done this 200 times.
Right.
Whereas if I tried to get in there and do that, I could do it, but it would take me 2 or 3 days, probably 3 trips to, an AutoZone.
Watch a bunch of YouTube videos.
Watch a ton of YouTubes. It's so inefficient. It's just like, okay, I'm just going to pay to have this done.
Right.
And I do have, and this is a joy of mine, I do have a familiarity with these texts. And again, it's not unlike we've said, the Hebrew just really helps.
Yeah.
And again, I'm glad we have all these English versions, but the Hebrew really helps. So anyway, well, man, we really went on with that question, but hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah. Well, this chapter 10 is pretty quick. There's not a whole lot of, there's a lot of information, but the content to derive from, there's nothing applicable or anything. It's really just kind of getting us further into the story. And
That's right.
Transition in a way.
Yeah, the real punchline. All right. Now, I kind of want you to hear this. So if you're doing this while driving or in a conversation, maybe tune in here for just a second. But the real punchline of these matters, right? From Genesis, we really could say even Genesis 9:18, where we started last time. The real punchline is not going to be until Genesis 12:3 with Abraham. So you're going to have to cut us some slack. I don't want to go straight to Genesis 12:3. Yeah. I want to kind of unpack this. It's going to take an episode or 2 to unpack. And this will involve, the next episode will be the so-called Tower of Babel. And we'll kind of show you what's important there. And I think we can maybe go from there to at least the genealogy coming out of that.
Yeah.
And that might get us to Genesis 12, where this is important. But this one will just be a short little episode on the so-called Table of Nations.
Yeah. Now this was a whole genealogy. Are you going to make me read every single name on
No,
here?
but why don't you read for us to get the flavor?
Yeah.
Why don't you read from Genesis 10:1 to Genesis 10:5? I'll stop you on Genesis 10:5.
Okay.
I'll show you the important details, and then we won't read the whole chapter.
All right. We'll get through some of these names. These are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Sons were born to them after the flood.
I wasn't gonna interrupt you yet, but let me just interrupt you real quick. Obviously, we're after the flood.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can see we're in a new episode here because we've got those words, these are the generations of. And we saw that in Genesis 2:4,
Yep.
Genesis 5, right there at the beginning of that genealogy, and then at the beginning of the Noah story proper in Genesis, what was it, 6:9, I think.
Yeah.
So we obviously are in a new little literary unit that is going to make up this genealogy. All right.
All right.
So
verse 2, the sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tyrus. The sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphath, Tagamor. The sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, Dodanum. From these, the coastland peoples spread in their lands, each with his own language by their clans in their nations.
All right, very good. So here you have this sort of summary statement of the sons of Shem.
Japheth.
Japheth, Japheth. That's right. Of the sons of Japheth from verse 2. And it is interesting that Shem was mentioned first here in Genesis 10:1, but he's skipped over for right now. And then, interestingly enough, he's going to be kind of an inclusio or a bookend because that's how the author's going to end Genesis 10. So we've got all these sons of Japheth. Again, I don't know that which son is which is too important. There are a couple maybe important things there, but I think most important for what the author's doing here is that verse 5, from these, the islands of the nations were divided. Did yours say were divided?
We're spread.
We're spread. Okay, that's fine. I'm curious. I'm just interested in the CSB. What's the CSB saying? Divided and spread are both great. This is the idea of dispersion, by the way.
Islands spread out.
Spread out. Lands, okay. All right. So this is the idea of dispersion that we saw all the way back in 8:19. And we'll see this again here towards the end. I'll make a few more comments on that.
And these are their lands, his own language, their clans, and their nations.
That's right. And when we need to keep an eye on those four entities or elements, nations, lands, tongues, and families.
Okay.
Or I think the New American Standard says tribes or clans. But that's all the same word.
said clans.
Clans, okay. All right. Now, instead of reading the sons of Ham, which six begins with, I just want you to go to verse 20 because that's the conclusion of the sons of Ham.
Okay.
And I want you to go ahead and read that.
Yep, so there's a bunch of names, and then verse 20, these are the sons of Ham by their clans, their languages, their lands, and their nations.
All right, very good, very good. And the Canaanites, interestingly enough, were mentioned again in those sons.
And so is Egypt.
Yep.
And Nimrod and Cush, and maybe some other names that are familiar to,
That's right.
to you
to
guys.
Biblical readers,
yeah.
So
Philistines came from them.
Yeah. So basically, in a sense, to no surprise, here we have a lot of the future enemies of Israel.
Yeah.
Who Israel kind of wars with, basically in the rest of the Old Testament to a certain degree. And like I said last time, Canaan, Ham, is cursed. And his descendants then end up being on the opposite side of the people of God a lot of times. Now, read verse 20 again, and we'll just connect the words.
These are the sons of Ham by their clans, their languages
or tongues,
their lands, and their nations.
So we have, again, our four words that the sons of Japheth also divided into their elements. Okay? All right, now we're ready finally for the end of the chapter, and Shem, verse 21.
To Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the elder brother of Japheth, the children were born.
All right. You can basically skip all of those if you want to, and you can go to verse 31.
These are the sons of Shem by their clans, their languages, their lands, and their nations.
All right. So again, the author, in a sense, began with Shem in 10:1, and he ends with Shem in 10:31, or the last part of the chapter in 10:31. Again, just to point out, the sons of Shem in their clans or families, whatever word your version uses, in their tongues or languages, again, whichever word your version uses, in their lands and in their nations.
Yeah. So this is a literary decision. So Shem, who's the firstborn, technically you would start with his family. You would
start with him, that's
but
right.
The author he's emphasizing the story of Shem.
That's
so
right.
He's like, all right, here's Japheth, here's Ham. Now let's get back to the point of the story. And so that's why he saved Shem at the end, so that he can continue on literary-wise.
Yeah, I would say I think that point is exactly right, because Shem is going to be very important in the genealogy in 11:10 and also.
Yeah.
And then the word Shem is going to be part of a major wordplay in the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, which is, I won't ruin it, but this was a big wow moment for me when I was learning Hebrew.
Really?
This
when
thing.
was this back in Old Testament class?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was
5 or 6 or 7 years
big
ago.
light bulb moment of, there's a lot happening here that the author's doing that you don't necessarily see very clearly without the Hebrew.
Yeah. Good. Well, we can maybe draw that out gently next time. So I think then, again, the point there being Shem is going to be the important son.
Yeah.
Right? Now, let's just hear the summary of the whole chapter in verse 32.
These are the clans of the sons of Noah, according to their genealogies in their nations, and from these the nations spread abroad on the earth after the flood.
All right, very good. So in verse 32, then, you again see clans, nations in the lands were divided after the flood. So again, you basically have that issue again with these words. And I think I just want to say here now that, of course, what's interesting in this summary statement, that the chapter, you know how many nations were in this chapter?
How many?
70 nations.
Okay.
You know how many sons of Israel there were when they went into the land in Exodus 1?
I'm going to guess 70.
70.
Okay.
70. And again, this might be an interesting thing to talk about later. But again, the important thing there is we have this dispersion going on, the separating. And so after the flood, the sons of Noah basically become the whole entire known earth, right? The whole population is these sons of Noah as they move out into the land. So join us next time as we talk about Shem and how Shem is this important figure and will produce this important figure, and as we discuss how the Scripture is for you and about you.